One of the most difficult things for singers is knowing, without question, what to work on to take control of your voice. Not guessing, not trying everything, but knowing. Yet, many singers fall down the rabbit hole of online streaming advice that worked for the person demonstrating it, but didn't produce the same results for them. Sound familiar? You try it, it feels promising, but your voice doesn't respond the same way. And you're left wondering, is it me? Am I doing something wrong? In this episode, I'm going to unpack some science-backed truths and reveal the core concentrations for singers. I'm Darcy D, your virtual voice coach, and we're going to dive into several topics today. All the concentrations for singers, the areas of focus that determine whether your voice cooperates or resists. But control isn't accidental. It begins with knowing exactly where your attention belongs. And as a singer, there are 4 key areas of concentration. The use and function of these concentrations individually and or collectively become the reasons why you can or can't do what you want with your voice. Most singers try harder. Few singers concentrate better. The key to successful singing is learning to balance the use of the concentrations. Today, we're not adding more exercises. We're clarifying where your attention belongs, because the voice follows where you put your attention. Job 1 is knowing, and sometimes through the process, you may begin to realize you didn't know you didn't know. That is not failure, that is awareness being raised. A vocal analysis usually reveals your voice type, or more accurately, what your voice tends to do, especially through the transition. That information points you to correct exercises according to your voice type. It's not random, it's not generic, it's targeted. Because you don't build a voice randomly, you build it strategically. Now, when you start to uncover these concentrations and you start to apply them to your working exercise routine as a singer, you get into what I call the plate spinning principle. And although your concentrations must all fire at once in total synchronicity, it can feel like you're juggling plates. And in a sense, you are. If one plate slows down, another compensates. If 2 destabilize, effort increases. If 3 go off the rails, the voice feels unreliable. The goal is not to think about all 4 at once. The goal is to know which plate needs attention and strengthen it until balance becomes muscle memory. Now, you can review muscle memory. There's a webinar in the app. I think it's the very first webinar I published, and it's on muscle memory, the understanding of how positive subconscious habits are formed. So you can have a look at that, and that'll sort of reveal like what the underlying message is that I'm presenting today. So there are 4 concentrations in no particular order. We're just going to uncover what they are, and then I'll do some demonstrating towards the end of this to show you how they all work together or how they fight each other. If you have any questions, throw them in the chat, and I will answer as many as there are. So, breath. Breath is flow, not support. I've never really taught that it's breath support, because what does breath support? And that's also in another webinar on breath, and we talk about that in more detail. But breath contributes to phonation. It is not the end-all, be-all. Breath responds to the vocal cord function, and if vocal cord closure is inefficient, breath compensates. If vowels are misaligned, breath has to compensate. Breath is often the visible symptom, not the root cause of vocal challenges. When to concentrate on breath? You can concentrate on breath when there's phrase instability, the sound quivers, you're running out of air, you can't finish a phrase, the onset is inconsistent, In other words, there's too much or too little breath at the start of the phrase. Inconsistent pitch. So really what you have to concentrate on is continuity. There has to be release, response, not pushing, not managing, not controlling, but providing breath. Balanced breath feels available, not forced. So that's one area of concentration. And if I found that if singers work on nothing but breathing, all the other concentrations take a hit and it throws things out of balance, and it can lead to vocal strain and fatigue quickly, and or the voice will just fall apart and get stuck. Another concentration is vocal cord closure. Now, we all know that when you hold your breath, the vocal cords close 100%. No air escapes. So you have total control over this concentration, and you can close those cords 100% and no air will escape. You can release the cord closure or the adduction, and you can allow the vocal cords to open or not grip as tightly as breath starts the vibratory pattern into motion. So closure is efficiency. It's not squeezing, it's not loudness, it's not aggression. Balanced vocal cord closure provides pitch stability, tone clarity, reduced effort, dynamic control, and these are all attributes to balanced singing. And it depends on what you're singing, where you're singing in your register, what emotional value you're looking at. And this will sort of demand where the vocal cords have to be and how they close to get that sound. Too little closure in the vocal folds can provide air leakage, instability, overbreathing, underbreathing. Too much closure or compression will provide rigidity or strain, limited flexibility, and this is often where singers think they need more breath, when in fact what they need is better adduction. Better cord closure reduces global effort. Now, a third concentration, and this one is up for debate amongst vocal coaches, the laryngeal tilt. The larynx is what houses the vocal folds. It's where your Adam's apple is, and we can actually tilt that by imposing positions on it. The tilt is relationship, not position. So we use laryngeal tilt and sometimes extreme laryngeal tilt to help form balance in vocal production. For new singers, exaggerated coordinations like dopey, where the larynx comes down, is a coordination that we use to assist with access to the transition for someone who might flip. We use the bratty voice where the larynx is raised just slightly to help thin out the vocal cords and find the vocal cord closure, so we get that connected tone. Dopey and bratty can be extremely effective in correcting tendencies such as pulled chest, flipping, register disconnection. And dopey and bratty are tools, not destinations. So I always say, as soon as humanly possible, singers should begin moving toward a neutral or floating larynx. Why? Because extreme approximations up or down with the larynx create new compensation patterns over time. So it's great when we use these sort of bratty and dopey positions to find our balance in exercise, but over time we want to lessen the extremity of that. So a floating larynx allows clearer transitions, more stable vowel alignment, less effort. With muscle memory, you'll eventually be able to slightly raise or slightly lower the larynx to assist with bridging, getting that smooth passaggio, add stylistic color. You don't live in these extremes, you access them. And finally, the last concentration is probably the most important. This is where we talk about vowels or formants. A formant is the size and shape of an acoustical space. So when we start shaping vowels in any language, this is where singers will likely spend most of their time. Vowels are not pronunciation, they are acoustic alignment. Change the vowel, change the voice. When the vowels align, range opens up, strain is reduced, tone stabilizes, registration organizes. When vowels are incorrectly formed, the larynx compensates. Breath overworks, closure overdrives. As a singer, we coordinate breath and vocal cords to make noise. So that noise is called the source. That's where the sound comes from. That noise is then directed through the vocal tract. So the vocal tract begins at the vocal cords and finishes at the lips. This is the vocal tract. That noise is directed through the vocal tract where it is shaped by the throat and the mouth by way of vowels primarily, because vowels are what we sing primarily. Consonants either inhibit, allow, or stop airflow. So they're more like, they're directors, they're ski poles. They help us, they can help us balance, but it's not what we sing primarily. So what we do sing is vowels, e, a, o, and those have to be shaped correctly. And the way they're shaped will either boost those pitch frequencies, balanced, or the way those vowels are shaped will attenuate those pitch frequencies, unbalanced. So vowels influence everything upstream and downstream of the vocal tract. I know I'm laying this all out just kind of blat, but this is just sort of basic. These are your concentrations, and if you haven't been introduced to these yet, you need to learn a little bit about each one of these. So what we want to do is make this audible because concentration is not theoretical. It's actually measurable. So in exercise, and remember this, in exercise you strive for no strain, no disconnect. You want a balanced, connected tone in tune with a balanced onset. So when we start the phrase, it's not it's it's balanced. There's a control to the release of the breath. The vocal cords and the breath work together to make that onset comfortable and balanced. This rule can and will be broken during song. So exercise must be clinical, deliberate, and focused to balance all your coordinations simultaneously. Let me just demonstrate a couple of things here. And I think I'll switch to my piano so you can see. So if I find a place, this is my transition because I'm a tenor. If you're an alto, this is also your transition. We share this. Transition, the place where we come from chest voice to head voice. Now, if I pick a note in my transition and I use too much chord closure, it sounds like it's being gripped. It sounds forced. It actually feels like I have to work. And what that's doing is because the vocal cords are ducting or closing so aggressively, it's almost forcing me to add so much compression that I get that sound. Now, this might be useful if you're a rock singer and you're looking for a specific sound, but it's also creating a lot of effort for me in trying to make this sound feel free. It's reducing my flexibility or my ability to, stylize that note. Now, if I had not enough chord closure on the same note, it's now, I feel like the breath is escaping way too fast. I'm getting what we call air leakage. So it's not working with the vocal cords. It's instable or unstable. It's got a weak onset, and the breath has to compensate when the closure is insufficient. So finding, just the right place. Balanced closure and breath supply. Now notice the stability of the sound. Notice the clarity. Instead of or it's the right amount of chord closure and the right amount of breath supply. So I don't have to push, I just have to provide the air. The vocal cords go into the vibratory pattern, making it stable, clear, and I have ease, and I can have ease and presence. I have dynamic freedom. That's balance. Now, another thing that happens when I go into a balanced state, like if I have too much chord closure, there's no vibrato. Not enough chord closure, no vibrato. When I find that place of balance, vibrato can appear almost instantly. And it feels easy. And I can control that. I can change the speed and the oscillation rate of the vibrato. And it happens in this place. So quite often, if you're looking to balance breath and vocal cord, think vibrato. If you can find vibrato, you have balance, right? And if you have balance, you have no strain. If you have balance, you're not disconnected. All right. Now let's look at some laryngeal exaggerations. When we talk about dopey and bratty, these are corrective tools. And I want to demonstrate how you might use these to create the balance. So again, this is my transition, and if I needed to get through my transition and it started to sound like this, started to pull, well, that's going to force me to not find my head voice comfortably, and I'm going to pull. So what I can do is I can take the weight off by lowering my larynx a little bit. So I'm just basically beginning to yawn. I'm not going extremely dopey, and I'm allowing the larynx to come down just a little bit. So there's less extreme movement. Now, more natural transitions, more organic tone, etc. And these extremes are access points. It's not where we live. We don't want to make this habitual to the point that we're taking the dopey stance to an extreme. Now, likewise, if I was a flipper, and the larynx is coming up, which is what's causing the flip, I can be a little bit more extreme with the dopey stance so that the larynx comes down. As I approach the transition, the larynx might want to come up, but it's going to neutralize. And that will give me... I'm just relaxing the jaw, my tongue is low and forward, and I'm yawning through it. Now, at first, it's going to be quite... for someone who's a flipper, be an extreme dopey position. But over time, and as you start to habituate that access, to that connection, you can think about singing it in a more neutral stance and just keeping the same position, jaw dropped, tongue forward. And it might even feel like you may have to provide a little bit more breath into the formant. So again, it's not pushing, it's filling that space, it's providing. And then if it starts to flip again as you ascend, go back to dopey. So these tools you have access to at any given time. Now, we can also use the bratty stance. Sometimes we use the bratty stance on a staccato type sound, so where we access the note for the shortest period of time, allows us to be slightly more aggressive. And when we raise the larynx to a bratty position, the larynx comes up slightly, and it allows the vocal cords to thin out easier, and we can close the vocal cords a little bit more easy as well. And so we could use it on a wider vowel. So now I'm using that bratty Munchkin SpongeBob sound. Till it feels comfortable. So the effort is on each and every note for as short as humanly possible. Now, as soon as possible, we want to start linking this together. Now, it is an abrasive sound, but it is a connected sound. So just like the dopey stance with the bratty one, we can, as soon as humanly possible, try to neutralize it so the larynx comes down to more neutral. Ah, and if it flips, ah, go back to bratty. Ah, neutral. Ah, and then change the vowel. And you're going to have to do this probably with all 10 vowels. 10 vowels in the English language, that is. And over time, you'll learn, which concentration is giving you the grief. And when we're talking about the larynx is sort of a connector. We can manipulate the larynx for chest pullers, manipulate the larynx for flipped voice, manipulate the larynx for those with no chest voice. People who sing like this in their chest voice. Forces you to eventually flip. So if I go slightly bratty, na 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 ah, I'll begin to find that connection. Repeat that till it becomes habitual. Try to neutralize the larynx. Right? Does that make sense? Now, we can also use the vowels to show how we can fix the concentration or mend what isn't working. So we can sing with a fixed vowel, something like ah to eh. So, and I've demonstrated this many times, like the word back. This is such a great demonstration because if you just say the word ba, it's an ah like apple. And if I have to sing this in my mix, ba, it's splatty. It's a vowel that lives in chest voice by its very nature. Tone is driven to chest voice. So when I want to take it into my mixed or head voice position, it doesn't want to go. So what I'm doing here, ah is at the bottom. Now, this vowel chart is also in the app for those of you that just checking this out. This vowel chart is available to you. Ah is on the bottom here because it's a chest voice driven vowel. It's on the bright side because when we go yeah, that's a bright sound, and wah is a dark sound. So this is how you'll learn to use your vowels to assist you with finding connection at different places in your register. So again, back to my demonstration. Ah, back, it's splatty. So what I do is I take the ah shape and I put it through eh, which is the next narrowest shape on this particular side of the vowel chart. So beck, if I was to sing ah through eh lips, back, it's very much easy. It's so easy. It feels free. And then I can walk that vowel a little bit higher, back, and I'm into my head voice. So it was very easy. Now, we can also use E to oo. So if we look at the top here, the narrowest shape you can make as a singer is oo. Woo! Really easy, drives tone to head voice. We don't have to think about it. It just works that way. E is the neighbor on the bright side of the vowel chart. It's a very almost closed position. E. Now the thing about E is that if we make the space of the mouth, to form it too small, it can sound squeezy. E. And especially if you're using that bratty stance to assist the connection. So eventually, you got to lower the larynx. You're going to have to open up the vowel. So if, as you sing E, you think through oo lips, you're going to get E. So you're somewhere between oo and E, but you're saying the E sound. E. There it is. It's clean, it's connected, there's no strain, and that's exactly what we want. Now, you can modify it slightly, or you can modify it somewhat exaggerated, depending on what you need. If your previous vocal habits have you in a position where you have to use extreme laryngeal tilt, then by all means do. But just remember, as soon as humanly possible, You have to try to neutralize everything. Now, you modify it slightly and you notice that the range opens up. Strain is reduced. The tone stabilizes. You change the vowel, you change the voice. Do we have a question? Tony, is that you? Typing lyrics out to know when you need to breathe. Oh yes, this is a really good one. Now we're talking about when you go from exercise into song now, and you need to map out the song. And there's actually a webinar in the app on going from exercise to song. So this is a really good point, and I know it's an eye opener. And I still use this when I'm learning new songs, or when I'm learning a new anything, a verse. So you type out the lyric, and every time there's a breath, you hit enter. Starts a new line. So some lines might look this long, and other lines might look this long. You have a visual of the length of the line. And when you sing anything, you're linking the vowel consonants together into one word, which means one breath, one word, many shapes. And then you learn to put it together, and then you learn where it is in your register, which means what kind of attention do I give to my larynx. So if I'm doing a long scale and I had to go mum 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 mum, I'm starting to pull. Let me show you where I am. So again, my transition is here. I'm starting F and I'm going up to high C. And I'm using mum, which is a wide vowel, soft consonant. It's called a voiced consonant, because I can sing it. But when I sing M, the air comes out my nose. When I sing ah, it's primarily coming out my mouth. And if I just stayed with my chest voice muscle, that thyroarytenoid, mum, 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 it's going to pull. I feel it. So if I know that I have to change something, I can start to think about the larynx. Maybe, because I don't really need to go very dopey on the bottom. It's right there. But as I come towards my transition, I could start to lower my larynx. Mum, 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 back to normal. Mum, 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 mum. And it doesn't take much to find that stability on that longer phrase. So just like in songs now, this is going to be a collection of vowel-consonant combinations. Oh, and another key is knowing how each vowel responds in the transition. Because if you're singing a phrase and it's got an ah here and an e here, ah, e, you're gonna have to shape those so the ah is balanced and the e is balanced. Ah's a bigger vowel, e's a smaller vowel. So you might do this. You might make the E slightly bigger. And they're going to flow one into the other. Make sense? So then, if you type out your lyrics, you can see which vowels are where they are in the register as it pertains to the song you're singing, and how you might have to reshape your concentrations to activate this line into balance. And when you learn that, when you're first learning the song, it might not be as stylized as you think it should be. It might just be somewhat splatted out. You got it out. You found all the notes. There's balance there, even with laryngeal assistance in the way you tilt it, dopey or bratty. And then once that is sort of seated, then you can start to refine it and stylize it and let the emotional value of the lyrical content take over and feed it accordingly. And because you've habituated all this in routine exercise, you have the balance, you have the control, you know that you know, now you know, and then you can start to lay it all out. And not really think about it more so than just telling the story as a singer in a sustained speech fashion. And that's it. I mean, that's all I wanted to do today was... Oh, yes, it does. We have another question. Does lowering the larynx give you more space in your throat, therefore a richer sound? Yes. So when we talk about, there's two primary formats, acoustical spaces of the singing process. The first one is in the throat. And this is what we would call, like, we're chest voice. ah, ah. And then as you cross through the transition into head voice, everything is shaped up here. Ah. Now, here's one way you can find out. If you put your hands around your throat like this, like you're going to choke yourself, not just gently, so you can feel, and just go ah, where it's comfortable, ah, and you'll feel the vibration. You might feel your vocal cords vibrating, but you don't feel any movement of the throat or the esophagus. Now, if you do this again and go dopey, you feel the larynx come down, you might feel a little more resonance down here. Now, if you use what's called that semi-occluded vocal tract exercise, where you sing with a straw and puffy cheeks, or just puffy cheeks, and do it again, you'll feel your throat do this, right? So that mental demand to lower your larynx and create a little bit more back pressure is going to open up this formant. And we all know that bigger spaces, lower sound. Bigger spaces, lower sound, less vibration. So the slower the vibration rate can go. So yes, you can increase the tone and the sound of your lower register using some of these tools. You feel it in your chest. It's sympathetic. When we go into head voice, the vocal cords start to converge. They get smaller, longer, more natural tension. The ligament is involved. You may feel it in your head. You may not, but you will not feel it in your chest voice. And I know I sound like a broken record because I say a lot of this over and over and over, but it's true. This is what happens. It's very simply complicated. And again, to sort of encapsulate what today was about, was just letting you know what these concentrations are, because they work together, and if one is out of balance, everything can be out of balance. And things like just learning to use your breath. Now, if you were taught that it's all about the breathing and you must use the diaphragm and you must push and reach and fill, that's going to be counterintuitive to balanced singing. And one of the exercises you can do is a simple this is for breathing. Just a simple 1-octave scale repeated on an S. So that S sound cannot be made unless breath is moving. You can move that breath lightly. You can move it on a medium resistance, and you can move it heavy. When you do this exercise, whatever resistance level you choose, keep it the same. Out, and then breathe and do it again. So according to the size and shape of the space of my teeth, that's the resistance that felt comfortable for me. Now, if I was to open up on that and do a vowel, how many lines in a song are that long, right? So what you can do is you can use the sound into a vowel. You can go now I get this proper onset coming from this resisted S to an open vowel. And if I just had to go that might be a little, for me, because of where that is, that's the top of my transition. It's near head voice dominant, right? So it's a smaller space for me, a smaller vocal cord system, and so this S helps me find that quite nicely. So, and again, there's things like this in the app that you can use to find how to work on the concentrations for your voice. The vocal analysis will tell you where you need to go, and the exercises in the routine for that voice type will start to balance the things that were supposedly out of balance. As you work through this, something else will pop up. you may find that you were diagnosed as a flipper, and now suddenly you're doing flipper and no chest voice routines, flipper and pulled chest routines. We do all of these things eventually to become a blended voice singer, where we do all the exercises throughout the working part of our register. And that's the goal for every singer. We want to be a mixed voice, blended voice singer with as much control over our concentrations as humanly possible. If you have enjoyed what you've seen here today, I would very much appreciate a like and a share and a comment. If you need assistance, reach out to me and let's do a session together. We'll do a vocal analysis. Make sure you're on the right track. Make sure you're using the right tools within the app. So what we've done today is we've clarified some things that most singers never fully understand. Your voice is not random, it's responsive. Your breath, chord closure, vocal cord closure, adduction, laryngeal tilt, dopey, bratty, or neutral-ish, and then your vowel shaping. So when these concentrations are balanced, your voice organizes itself. When they're misdirected, your voice has to compensate, take up the slack for whichever concentration it needs the attention. The difference between struggle and control is not talent, it's accurate concentration or accurate focus on said concentration. So sometimes progress begins with realizing you didn't know, but now you do. And when your concentrations are aligned, your voice stops fighting itself. And when your voice stops fighting itself, you can finally do what you want to do with it. You get vocal freedom. Now stylizing becomes easier. And before you know it, you begin to sing for yourself. My name is Darcy D, and I endorse this message.